Demonetization battle is also shifting from the national capital to poll-bound Uttar Pradesh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi both addressing rallies in UP, taking pot shots at each other. Listen in to what they had to say.
नया आइडिया निकाला, एक नया इवेंट, सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक काले धन पे। मोदी जी, ये आपका सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक नहीं था, ये आपने हिंदुस्तान के गरीब पर, हिंदुस्तान के किसान पर, हिंदुस्तान के ईमानदार लोगों पर फायर बॉम्बिंग करी है। फायर बॉम्बिंग
पहले दिन से हमने जो जो योजना लाए हैं वो सारी योजनाएं इस देश के गांव, गरीब, किसान, दलित, पीड़ित, शोषित, वंचित, माताएं, बहनें, युवा, उन्हीं के जीवन में बदलाव लाने के लिए हमारी सभी योजनाएं केंद्रित है।
Well, the politicians may talk about fighting black money, whether it is Narendra Modi ji or Rahul Gandhi. The fact though is that political parties continue to take donations in cash from anonymous sources, and most of the political parties have still not declared their finances under the right to information. Now the Election Commission has stepped in and asked for changes in the way political parties take their donations. This is how the parties have reacted.
In order to pull the plug on black money, the Election Commission of India has urged the centre to ban anonymous contributions of 2,000 rupees and above made to political parties. The Election Commission also recommended that only those parties should be exempted from tax who contest elections and win. A move welcomed by Prime Minister Modi.
मैं आज हमारे देश के चुनाव आयोग का भी अभिनंदन करता हूं। उन्होंने देश के राजनीतिक दलों को भी काले धन से मुक्ति के लिए आह्वान किया है।
As per Representation of People Act and existing IT laws, political parties can receive individual anonymous fundings up to 20,000 rupees. But in order to bring in transparency in the upcoming assembly elections, the Election Commission of India has recommended that the individual anonymous fundings should be restricted to 2,000 rupees.
It's important to note that while the common man is standing in queues and giving account of his money, it's time that political parties also ensure transparency, because there is enormous ambiguity about the funding of political parties. They mostly receive money in the form of donations and contributions, and rely on coupons rather than receipts to evade tax. According to ADR, 75% of the sources of funding for political parties is unknown. The latest study shows that within the 25% of known funding sources, a whopping 87% comes from corporates, mainly from trusts and groups of companies and the manufacturing sector. Time and again, political parties have dodged the big question of coming under the ambit of the RTI. Time and again, the judiciary has pulled up political parties for their mysterious and secretive funding mechanisms. The most hard-hitting reprimand came from the Supreme Court in 1996. It said that political parties in their quest for power spend more than thousands of crores on general elections. Yet nobody accounts for the bulk of money and there is no accountability. This type of naked display of black money cannot be permitted. With Atir Khan, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let me raise 5 big questions right at the very top today. Should all political funding be done by check alone? That's my first big question. Should all political funding be done by check alone? Number 2, should tax laws be amended to stop donations by anonymous sources to parties? Question number 3, is a consensus possible on ending cash donations to parties? Are political parties who talk of cashless transactions guilty of double standards? And finally, why are political parties reluctant to provide financial details of their accounts? 5 big questions. First, to the 2 major parties, since they are primarily seen to be guilty in this regard. I'm joined by Salman Soos, spokesperson of the Congress, and Sambit Patra, national spokesperson of the BJP. I'll then widen the debate to other parties and special guests. But first to you, Salman Soos, according to the ADR, the Association for Democratic Reforms, for the past 10 years, between 2005 and 15, between the Congress and the BJP, you collected 5,450 crores from unknown sources. Your party led the way, 3,323 crores. Your response?
Fundamentally, the Congress party has operated within the laws of the country, as have other political parties. In terms of where we want to go as a country, in terms of bringing more transparency, greater transparency in political funding, the Congress party, if you recall, in 2010, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi was the first to kind of say that we should actually go for state funding.
Mr. Soos, please look at the numbers.
I'm looking at the numbers.
Your party has been the worst offender. You have ruled this country for the longest period. You have not brought in change in laws. And in terms of the money collected and not accounted for, you are ranked at number 1.
Let me just say this. All political parties work according to a framework. Now, we did try to bring in some consensus on state funding of political action, but it requires consensus. If the BJP and other political parties come forward, we are willing, we are ready. In fact, if the Prime Minister can, by the way, if the Prime Minister...
It's wonderful you are saying this when you are in the opposition. You should have said this in the government. That
we said it in 2010.
So you are blaming the opposition?
We're saying in 2010 we said it. We said it in Burari.
You did not. You said it, but you did not act upon it. 1 minute. Sambit Patra. The fact is that the Prime Minister is going around the country calling this a war on black money. What's the point of a war on black money and telling me to go cashless when you yourself and your party doesn't go cashless? Is the Prime Minister willing to give a commitment that his party will only take donations by check? The fact is, as per ADR, the BJP in the last 10 years got 2,125 crores from anonymous sources which you didn't account for.
See, there are two parts to this debate. As far as the Prime Minister is concerned, you rightly showed in the report itself, the Prime Minister welcomed this step of reforms which was suggested by the Election Commission today. That means the intention of the Prime Minister, the intention of Bharatiya Janata Party is absolutely clear, and you would agree to the fact, because I was also going to the report that was presented right now, that though it was in 1996 that the Supreme Court reprimanded the political parties, all the political parties, including ours also, it is finally today that I at least hope that we would change, things would change. Because there's a very bad perception, all said and done. I may try to give all kind of logics, but all said and done, the perception in the people's mind about the political funding is absolutely negative, and I firmly believe that this needs to change. Secondly, the main issue, the main logic that the political parties try to float in political funding is we are within the ambit of law. Because remember, in 1961 the income tax laws were brought in, and then the tax exemption, the 13A tax exemption was given to the political parties. The law was that till 20,000 rupees you need not declare the name of the ones who are contributing to the kitty of the party. So naturally, as far as Bharatiya Janata Party is concerned, we were following all these rules, the rules which were laid in 1961. In fact, the Prime Minister also
Mr. Patra, Mr. Patra, 1 minute. Mr. Patra, can you cross your heart and tell me that the donations which are anonymous and which you've not accounted for are only donations less than 20,000? Are you telling me, Mr. Patra, that your party does not collect, as do all the major parties of this country, donations much larger than that and don't account for it? I asked you, will the Prime Minister of this country give me an assurance that in the forthcoming elections, he will not take a single paisa which is not accounted for? He will take every little rupee by check. He tells me to go cashless. Will he go cashless? Will you go cashless?
Number one, thanks Rajdeep, that at least now we have a Prime Minister whom we have such amount of faith that all these years we never asked any other Prime Minister for assurance, but we asked this Prime Minister because of the fact that we know that here is a Prime Minister who would act. Thanks for the confidence that you have shown in this Prime Minister. Number two, as far as going to cashlessness is concerned, well, yes, cashlessness is absolutely important, but you would agree to the fact that the Election Commission has come up with the proposal that 2,000 rupees is the amount above which, 2,000 or above which, should be declared. Below that it should not be declared. So if you are demanding a check Well, yes, I also agree. A cashless system or a check above 2,000 rupees is what I believe we should reform.
Can you give me an assurance?
Under 2,000 rupees,
can both of
logic.
you? No, can both of you? Can both of you? No, 1 minute, Mr. Patra. Your first principles are sounding fine, but Salman shows you first. Can you give us an assurance, a viewer the assurance, that in the forthcoming elections, the Congress party will only take donations by check? Are you in a position to do that? You cannot do it because this is how you have survived for years.
No, but first let me just say this. Sambit talks a lot about the Prime Minister. Let me ask him this. The Prime Minister came out with an ordinance when he had to appoint a principal secretary. He came up with multiple ordinances when he had to do a land bill. How come he hasn't come up with something like this for this particular issue, which is a burning issue right now?
Would you support it?
Yes.
Would the Congress party support an ordinance? But if the Prime Minister tomorrow says, I am bringing an ordinance on state funding till such time that there is a constitutional amendment.
In fact, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi in 2010 had called for state funding. If the Prime Minister brings it tomorrow, we'll welcome it, we'll support it. Let him bring it. What stops the Prime Minister, who has these great intentions for this country, what stops him from doing this? By the way, if the Prime Minister is really, honestly, Sambit, if the Prime Minister is really keen-hearted on this, let him tell the country, level with the country, what contributed to the spike of 3 lakh crores before demonetization announcement? What happened with the BJP's deposits in West Bengal of over 1 crore rupees, 3 crore rupees? By the way, what happened with the land deals in Bihar and Odisha? Can he tell us? Can he tell us, by the way, what happened with all these lavish weddings that BJP ministers are having?
So agitated.
Why don't you level with the people? If he's really interested, bring an ordinance. Why didn't he do it? Why does he wait for the election commission?
Okay, let one by one. Don't get so excited, Salman shows. It looks. Let's be calm. Let's be calm. Sambit Patra, is the Prime Minister willing to bring an ordinance or at least put it before the Parliament that I am committed to a cashless society and that starts with me and political parties? I will push for state funding. Let him bring it. There is a point in what Salman Soz is saying.
Give me some time, because I've heard Salman with respect. See, Salman, don't be so agitated and don't shout to us. I mean, this is almost, I was smiling because of the fact it was almost as if the sinner comes for a confession and he starts hitting the poor priest. So please don't heed the poor priest. Confess today. For 10 years you did not do anything. You have the right to confess.
You are the high priest of election finance.
No, please. Let's not fight.
Let's be serious now. Let's be serious.
Salman, please.
Do you believe you all are not even willing to come under the right to information?
No.
Political parties who are not willing to come under the right to information are giving us lectures.
Rajdeep, there are a barrage of questions and there is hardly any time. Allow me to speak. He spoke for such a long span of time. Number one, I mean, Rajdeep, you would agree to the fact that all these years, 10 years, how many debates did we have on this? None. No one questioned Manmohan Singh, but finally, you all are wanting an assurance, and today Prime Minister from a election rally in Kanpur gave the assurance to the country that I welcome what the Election Commission has said, and it is high time that political reform should take place. And as far as he going cashless and the party going cashless is concerned, he has already gone cashless, and we have seen as to how the whole PMO, the party functionaries, they are being taught into the techniques of cashlessness. Every day we are taught into techniques of cashlessness. It is a beginning. We are transforming this country, and we would transform the politics of this country as well.
I heard what the Prime Minister said today in Kanpur. Can you cross your heart? And I know that you are an honest man, so can you cross your heart and say that in this UP election, the BJP will not take large cash donations? Can you cross your heart and tell me that? Can you say that Amit Shah and Narendra Modi are not taking cash donations in UP? That all these rallies which are being organized are all being organized by official audited money, by check? Are you telling me that the BJP is not spending money? I told you this a few days ago. You have a huge cash advantage, which you are using, is my charge.
Rajdeep, you have second time wanted me to cross my hand to my heart and say what you feel should be said. I can cross my hand, and as you said, thanks to you, Rajdeep, as you said that I'm an honest man, I know that Mr. Modi is an honest man. He's honestly trying to change this whole country's system and the way it's functioning. Na khaunga, na khane dunga is not just a slogan. Please, for God's sake, we have to understand there is a paradigm shift. And it's not just in one field. In every field, the cabinet the governance system, the political system. See, overnight this country will not change. We have to have patience and we have to have faith. The Prime Minister wants to change, and I assure you, he will bring about the change, because not only his intentions are right,
Sir,
his
my
way of
direct
functioning is
question you are not
corrupt.
answering.
He won't answer.
My direct question is, can you assure me that the BJP will not take cash in this election? Simple.
I assure you, and give an example. There were certain motorcycles which were bought in Uttar Pradesh. You would be happy to know that all the payments for these motorcycles were made through checks. This is what you wanted, Rajdeep.
Salman Soz,
The check should be
Salman
cashless,
Soz, the
should be the way.
BJP representative is saying he's giving an assurance that in these UP elections, we will test it out on the ground with
An
our
example
reporters.
as well.
But he's
Not
giving
only
an
an
assurance
assurance, an
that all
example as
payments
well.
will be taken by check.
I will just say this. First of all, he said, "Na khaunga, na khane dunga." Basically, the Prime Minister has, stopped all khana pina of the poor people of this country through this particular totally foolish initiative.
No,
Now,
let's focus on yes.
If the Prime Minister, honestly, Rajdeep, the country is watching us. If the Prime Minister is really serious about this, why doesn't he disclose all the financial activities of the BJP and the RSS? Let them come out in the open. Everybody will praise him, but they're not going to do that. Samvit will sit here and tell us
So why
about
don't you
some
want to get some
motorcycles,
praise?
about some motorcycles for a few lakh rupees. Let them fight the election. And we all know. By the way, in 2014, when the election took place, you will recall that there were major newspaper reports about analysis of financing of the elections by the BJP, and their estimates were about 10,000 crores. And by the way, that kind of money is spent in US elections. Mr. Modi fought that kind of an election. These people have been accumulating money. They've not yet told us how there was a spike of 3 lakh crores just a month before demonetization. Let them level with us.
You are also not telling me in the more than 50 years that you have ruled this country, whether over the years you have had a habit of taking cash donations or not.
No, look, that's in the public domain. Yes, we have taken cash donations.
You have
as the BJP, as everybody else.
You have taken large cash donations. Everyone accepts. It's the worst kept secret in this country. Now we can go on with this tutu meme. The fact is, you are the two major national parties. You come together, have state funding. Matter doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani. Finish it off.
We agree. I agree with that.
You agree with it in
Sonia Gandhi
speeches.
in 2010 said, we welcome state funding. Let the Prime Minister bring an ordinance, we'll support it.
Okay, I want to move away from the two political parties. I've heard from them for now. I've heard from them for now. I want to go to looking at the wider issue. The former chief election commissioner is about to join me along with other party representatives. Mr. Soul, stay with us, but let's take a look at donations received by major political parties. Why did I first begin with these two parties? Because they are the prime offenders. The BJP 2014-2015 as per ADR 437.35 crores. Then it increased. This is how their donations have increased. 156% increase in the BJP. Congress's donations also increased by a comparatively smaller margin, 137%. NCP, these are all these donations coming in from so-called anonymous sources that we've been talking about, the small donations. Every political party, take a look at how those numbers keep increasing of small party and small donations. I'm joined by Raghav Chadda of the Aam Aadmi Party. Jai Prakash Narayan is founder of the Lok Satta movement, and T.S. Krishnamurthy is former Chief Election Commissioner of India. Mr. Krishnamurthy, you are hearing these political parties. You actually kick-started this debate when you were election commissioner, saying that this 20,000 limit was being misused. Do you believe the time has come to scrap it? Importantly, do you really believe the political parties will scrap it, or will the election commission have to take the initiative?
First of all, let me say it is too late. It should have been scrapped long ago, 10 years back perhaps it should have been scrapped. Political corruption is the root cause of all corruption in this country. And there is an obnoxious nexus between corporates and the political parties. The sooner this kind of anonymous donations is done away with, the better it is for this country and the democracy. Even 2,000 rupees limit suggested by the Election Commission, I don't agree. Every penny that is given to a political party should only be through a bank instrument. As a person who has worked in the income tax department, even this 2,000 rupees cash will be misused by all the political parties. So my suggestion is, do away with any such exemption. Every payment to a political party should be only by check. The second point, I have already suggested the state funding of election through a national election fund.
Okay, National Election Fund. I want to get Raghav Chadha of the Aam Aadmi Party, which has in a way taken a lead on this along with Jai Prakash Narayan. But Raghav Chadha, you've written to the other political parties. Are you all willing to sit across a table and resolve this, or do you believe this is all Noora Kushti going on? The Congress and the BJP in particular will say this at election rallies, will not actually implement it. And is the Aam Aadmi Party willing to make all its donations on its website public?
Well, yeah. So, Mr. Sardesai, both the BJP and the Congress from time to time talk about transparency in political finance and electoral funding, but they unfortunately don't back it up with action. Now, both the BJP and the Congress receive anonymous donations and donations from unknown sources, which constitute almost 3/4 of the total donations of the BJP and the Congress. Therefore, they fully exploit Section 229C of the Representations of the People's Act, that essentially says that you do not have to submit record of donations that you've received up to rupees 20,000. Therefore, the political parties which receive money through corruption and other illegitimate sources, and this ill-gotten wealth is camouflaged as cash donations and broken down into multiple sets of 20,000 each. I am very happy to say this on your channel, Mr. Sardesai, that Aam Aadmi Party maintains details of each and every donation, whether it's a donation of 1 rupee or whether it's a donation of 1 crore
But
rupees.
you also have been accused,
as far as we are
Mr. Chadda,
concerned,
your
we have
party has also been accused that in Punjab in particular, you all are taking donations well in excess of your party, sir, with due apologies, has also been accused in Punjab in particular of taking large donations and not declaring them, and that even your website, which in the initial period was transparent, is no longer transparent.
May I? Okay. Mr. Sardesai, I have heard both the BJP and the Congress for quite some time. Just give me half the time that you have given to the BJP spokesperson and I'll explain it to you. Now, as far as Punjab and other elections are concerned, we have heard only allegations from people who are our political adversaries. If there was actually any problem in the electoral finance of the Aam Aadmi Party, trust me, the central government, with the vindictive nature that they have, would have unleashed every enforcement agency, the CBI, the Enforcement Directorate, the Income Tax Department on us, and they would have put us in jail. That is one. Number two is that we are the only party that receives maximum donations through legitimate banking channels. Your first question you started with this program with was, are political parties willing to become cashless? I am proud to say that almost 92% of Aam Aadmi Party's donations are through legitimate banking channels, that is through credit card, debit card, RTGS, NEFT, etc. And only 8% of our donations are cash donations, and even these 8%, as a matter of policy, are deposited in the bank. That's one. Number two, now let us come to the BJP and the Congress. The BJP and the Congress, apart from not declaring the sources of their donations, have also been indicted by no less than the Delhi High Court for receiving illegitimate foreign funds. What did the BJP and Congress do? They got together and amended the FCRA Act with retrospect in the previous session of the Parliament, I believe, in the last session, and they tried to escape the penal provisions of FCRA. Not only this, the CIC has indicted 6 national parties, including the BJP and the Congress, that you are public authorities, you must subject yourself to the provision of the Right to Information Act. But both the BJP and Congress, along with 4 other national parties, have been running away, because if they are subject to the provisions of RTI, they will have to disclose how much money they get from which all people.
Mr. Chadda, I take your point.
Let me say this, that in my letter, in the capacity of National Treasurer of Aam Aadmi Party, to BJP and Congress, I asked them to not only disclose all sources of donations, but also disclose how much money both the BJP and Congress have deposited in their banks after the 8th of November, that is after the demonetization drive, in 500 and 1000 rupee notes. Because what we heard from the top bureaucrat of the Finance Ministry a couple of days ago was absolutely shocking, when he said that political parties will not be subject to any sort of investigation of scrutiny. Of how
they
much
have
money
clarified that, Mr. Chadda, they have clarified that.
Therefore,
Mr. Chadda, just a minute. Mr. Chadda, fact checker time. No, Mr. Chadda, fact checker time. That there has been a clarification.
Was a political one.
Mr. Chadda, now just a minute. there has been a clarification from the government that they are only saying that within the existing income tax laws, you will get your exemption. They are not trying to bring in some new exemption. So we need to have a fact checker, and we will keep a fact checker in place. But I just want to get just a minute. Before I go to Jayaprakash Narayan, just a minute, sir. Quick response from you, Mr. Soz. The fact is, whether it's FCRA, foreign contributions, whether it is RTI, all the major parties have been reluctant to come under any supervision for your political funding. The taxman is looking at us, Aam Aadmi and citizens of this country.
Yes.
But you are not looking at your political parties. This is double standards. This is hypocrisy.
But first, just as an observation,
yes,
for everybody to see that the national spokesperson of the BJP has run away from this debate. And I think people at home should be watching. When the debate gets tough, they start running. Now, on this particular issue, I don't want any lectures from Raghav Chadha and the Aam Aadmi Party. The Right to Information Act was actually brought in by our government. And by the way, if there's any discussion about bringing political parties within the ambit of the RTI, one of the major issues of that is about political deliberations within the political parties. As far as funding is concerned,
yes,
let's all get together. Why not? Let the Prime Minister lead.
It's very nice.
We are ready.
You want to get together in television studios, but not actually where it matters, which is in Parliament. No. Please.
We are ready.
The history of this country has been when political funding comes, there is no consensus. That is the reality. That's also a fact checker. But Jayaprakash Narayan, the wise man from the Lok Satta, is there a solution? I could have carried out this debate 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and I would have heard the same voices. Only Salman Soz and Sambit Patra would have been replaced by other leaders. What is the reality? Is there a solution, Mr. Narayan?
Rajdeep, we are confusing between two issues. One is the legitimate funding required for legitimate politics, whether it's campaigning, or running a party office, or research, or advocacy, or meetings, or whatever.
Sure.
The other is the illegitimate expenditure in elections, that is vote buying expenditure. What we must recognize is that 90% of the expenditure is actually vote buying, which is illegitimate. That cannot be addressed by funding, whether public funding or accountable funding. All these are not the solutions. We have to look at the systemic change to change the incentive. Let me come to this 10% part, namely the legitimate collection of money for legitimate politics. Now, we are blaming the political parties quite rightly, but we also must give them credit where it is due. In 2003, after Tehelka scam, all the parties, the then NDA in power, the then Congress and opposition came together and unanimously enacted this law, which is actually a great step forward, one of the finest laws in the world. I had a role in playing that. I talked to all the key players, including the current president, the former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, the then Law Minister Mr. Arun Jaitley, Mr. L.K. Advani, the former Prime Minister then P.V. Narasimha Rao, and many other people. And all of them came together and an extremely sound law came. Yes, there is a loophole of 20,000 rupees. But on the whole, they created an incentive for legitimate funding for legitimate politics. But the problem is twofold. One is because a 20,000 rupee loophole is given, that is now expanded to a level where it's become laughable. 80% funds are collected through that route. And you've been saying that, and all of us are saying that. But let's also be fair to the political parties. I know for a fact that at least one major political party, the BJP, after the law was enacted in 2003, took a decision at the behest of Ms. L.K. Advani not to collect any money by cash. Instantly, within a month or two, the collections fell by 90%. Then they had to reverse that decision. No, it's easy for us to blame them. For legitimate politics, if there's no legitimate funding, if they're now forced to take recourse to all kinds of means, we have to sit together and find a solution rather than blaming each other. Unfortunately, it's so easy to blame politicians because they're...
I take your point. Mr. Jayaprakash Narayan, hold on, because I want solutions. I want to take a break and I'm going to ask each of you for a solution. Because we have, as I said, this debate has now gone on for far too long. We are entering the 70th year of independence next year. And we need a solution. I'm going to ask each of my panelists after the break, give me that one solution that will restore some faith that this cashless economy propaganda also involves our politicians. That we cannot have a situation where the citizens of this country go cashless, but the politicians to take their donations in cash. A big debate on political funding. Is it possible for every political party in this country to take their donations only by check? T.S. Krishnamurthy, before the break, Jaiprakash Narayan of Lok Satta made it clear that even if the political party wanted to take money by check, maybe it was difficult because people were not willing to pay by check, they were willing to pay by cash. Given that harsh reality, and it is partly true, what is the solution? Do you see any real solution wherein political funding can be made truly transparent? Mr. Krishnamurthy, can you hear me? Mr. Krishnamurthy, can you hear me?
Yeah, just now I heard now.
Yeah.
I would like to tell you that.
Yes.
Yeah, now I can hear you. I just want to say there should not be any cash funding to political parties. The second question is there should be a national election fund to fund the elections. 3, corporates and individuals outside the members of the party should be banned from giving any donation by cash. And if an all-party consensus can be achieved for using this national election fund for meeting the expenditure of the candidates, I am certain a reasonable solution will be found. Although there may be misgivings by some people, I have no doubt that unless you ban total cash funding of the political parties, it is impossible.
Is it possible to monitor it?
Of money.
Mr. Krishnamurthy, do you believe it's possible to monitor it?
Illegal money in elections.
Is it possible to monitor it?
In my opinion, it is possible. It is possible, provided you have preparation lead time about 6 months or so. It is possible to monitor.
Okay, you believe it is possible to monitor.
And the income tax exemption available to the political parties must be the income tax exemption given under section 1013A should be reviewed. Every political party assessment should be scrutinized by the income tax department. You cannot give immunity to them.
Okay. You've come up with a practical solution, you believe, which is a national election fund. It's been raised in the past, but can it be implemented? Jaiprakash Narayan, is it practical, a national election fund?
I don't believe in a national election fund, Rajdeep, but certainly it's possible to make it accountable, all the legitimate funding that goes to the parties. Now, let's understand why the black money is going into parties' coffers. I'm not talking of the vote buying and the illegitimate expenditure. Let us leave that aside because that's a much bigger discussion. There are 2 reasons. One is, once there is an income tax exemption available for the political contributions, there's actually no need to give in cash. Still, many people prefer to give in cash because of fear of retribution. There is a fear that if I am seen to be funding Congress party, BJP may take it out on me because we still are in a political economy where the party in power acts lawlessly, recklessly. Right. There is no rule of law in the country except on paper. Therefore, there is a fear that they will be singled out and will be harassed. The parties must come together and say, look, we are hurting each other. This is not the right thing. Any citizen has a right to fund any party of his or her choice. We will not use that as a weapon to harass them. It's a big call, but the parties must collectively take the call. There's no solution. The second part of it is the culture of black men. So far, until the demonetization has taken place, let us hope that something will start beginning to happen in this country to change the culture of black money. But so far, in government, the employees take a vote that they will never do anything unless a bribe is paid. In private sector, many people have taken a vote never to do anything accountable but only by cash. This kind of a collective amnesia must give way to something better. But in terms of law, now that the law has given full tax exemption, one of the few countries in the world, probably the only one where the political contributions get full tax exemption to the donors. Once that is there, I think correspondingly we must make a provision in law and say, if you make a contribution which is unaccounted after tax exemption is given, then you will pay a hefty penalty, a very hefty penalty. The idea is not to penalize them, but the idea is to give them an incentive to actually give by check, because anyway there is a tax exemption. Okay. The current law does not provide for the penalty, it only provides for the incentive. The carrot is necessary, I'm all in favor, I argued for it, and I persuaded the parties, but the stick also is necessary, that if you break the law, if you give illegally and unaccountably, then definitely you have to pay a very hefty penalty. Let's say 5 times or 10 times the money contributed. Then the chances are that slowly but steadily, the culture of black money coming into parties at the behest of the corporates will stop.
Raghav Chadda, I just have 30 seconds. Will you agree with it, yes or no? With what you've heard from Jaiprakash Narayan, will the Aam Aadmi Party fully agree with it, yes or no?
No, no, I certainly. Well, yes, we certainly agree, Mr. Sardesai, and apart from that, there are few other things that this government needs to do if they're actually serious about tackling the menace of black money. That is number one, ban all anonymous donations. There should not be any anonymous donation for any political party. Number two, they should, put an upper limit to the total expenditure that a party can do during the course of an election. Right now, you only have an upper limit for expenditure for a candidate as per the Code of Conduct rules, but not as per a party. Thirdly, the parties must subject themselves to the Right to Information Act, and all their decisions, barring decisions of candidate selection, should be made public. And lastly, political parties should not resort to amending the acts with retrospect in order to escape penalty. If in a country where rule of law prevails, such naked display of black money by political party undermines the very essence of democracy. We need to begin with electoral reforms. These gimmicks of demonetization will not do us any good until there are massive electoral reforms that change political funding forever.
I'm going to ask you therefore, Salman Soz, you've come all the way from the US back here in India. In the United States, even if I give a $5 donation to the Democratic Party, I have to account for it. Is there something about the American people that we Indians have not learned? Or is it simply that our politicians simply do not know what it means to be transparent? Where is the problem? Is there a mindset issue, as Jayaprakash Narayan said? You're not willing to change.
No. Look, there's been so much change in this country. I think we sell ourselves very short. There's been a lot of change, and a lot of change is possible. But first, you talked about solutions. I think, number one, first, I think the Election Commission came up with an idea today. Good idea. Let's move towards that. Transparency. I think Raghav in some ways is right? Disclose who's giving what to parties. Third, you can't just punish other people. How about punishing politicians too? There's an institution of the Lokpal that this country has. Where is the Lokpal?
So I'm waiting to see which politician and which corporate is put in jail after Mr. Modi's black money drive. I'm waiting to see that. You're catching people across the country. I'm waiting all of you who have benefited from this politician corporate nexus should also go to jail.
I agree with you, but I'm also waiting to see, the Prime Minister today said that he's doing everything for poor people. I'm still waiting to see how many rich people are in lines for waiting to get some cash.
Okay.
So, I think there's a lot that can be done, but
let me leave it there.
One idea.
Let me leave it there, Salman. I've run completely out of time. On another day, we will carry forward this debate because the fact is that politicians talk the right language. They need to walk the talk. That's the simple plot. They need to walk the, as does society. Society and politicians now need to walk the talk when it comes to funding. Raghav Chadda, Salman Soz, Jayaprakash Narayan, Mr. Krishnamurthy and Sambit Patra, appreciate your joining us.